Okay, Hari Om. All right, so namaste everyone. This is our third session, really. Actually, the second session when we are talking or we are discussing the text in particular, but our third session overall. The first one was an introduction. During the last session, we went through, I would say, just a page or so, but it was a deeper dive into uh, the notion of earning relative freedom before we can truly appreciate absolute freedom for what it is. And we touched upon the topics of artha, kama, and dharma. And we are still about to get into dharma more particularly, but we discussed about how there are certain concerns that impinge us in our day-to-day lives. It could be issues with our relationships, with our employment, with financial conditions, whatever it may be. There are certain problems that we all face, which we are trying to gain some freedom from. And until those problems are relatively well taken care of and resolved through practical means, Vedanta remains elusive in the interim. So it is not that Vedanta doesn't have the capacity to set one free. It's just that Vedanta truly comes into play when the mind is somewhat at peace, when the mind is somewhat resolved and able to focus upon the Tatparya, upon the Satvishaya. And so, that statement really brought about a lot of concerns that folks raised, with regards to certain predicaments in their own lives, and all of this is relevant. So, I would just cap off our last session and make the suggestion that if there are certain things that one is dealing with, don't ignore them under the guise of spiritual escapism, because you cannot really escape your problems. You can only deal with them. And the more one tries to escape problems and use Vedanta as a crutch, the more one is setting oneself up for failure. And so Vedanta is meant to be studied by an adhikari. There's a popular notion that Vedanta is available for everybody. Everyone can study Vedanta, and that is true. There is some truth to it. Vedanta is available for everyone, but not everyone is available for Vedanta. That is an important distinction. Just as you might have a waterfall. Everybody is free to bathe under it, but not everybody will choose to. And sometimes, even if you choose to, you may not have the right uh, um, preconditions which enable you to enjoy it. I'll give you an example. Suppose somebody offers you ice cream. Now, some people may like ice cream. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that everybody likes ice cream. But now, if you have a bad cold, or if you have a very sore throat, or maybe you have to give a musical concert the next day, and you don't want to have something cold and risk ruining your vocal cords, or just causing certain temporary harm to them, so as to not impinge upon the quality of your concert, then you will resist eating that ice cream, and you will not enjoy it so much, even if you are forced to. Right? You may just be like, okay, chalo, let me be polite. If somebody's offering it, I'll maybe take a bite or so and get done with it. And so, even to enjoy something, you need a certain precondition of the mind, a precondition of the body, a precondition of the environment. And so, same way, Vedanta, while it is available to you, to truly enjoy it, and to not enjoy it in the sense of sense pleasure, but to truly derive benefit from it, there are certain conditions that need to be met. And these conditions, are very well addressed in some of our introductory teachings, such as Tattvabodha, where the sadhana chatushtaya is spoken about. So sadhana chatushtaya are the fourfold qualifications that one would do well to cultivate for Vedanta to better be appreciated, and for Vedanta to make home in one's heart. So that we will see along the way. The other thing I'd really like to point out is about spiritual escapism. Is oftentimes we are incapacitated by, or it's almost like being paralyzed by fear. Sometimes the problem is so daunting that we just try to run to the nearest solution, not really understanding whether that's the solution intended to solve a particular problem. There are certain things in your toolbox that you need to use for certain problems. If I need to open screws, I need a screwdriver. I can't use a hammer for that. And if I need to knock some nails into my roof because some of the shillings are loose, I need to use a hammer. I can't use a screwdriver. And so for every problem, there's a certain solution that is best oriented to solve that particular problem. And in a very general sense, I say this, Vedanta is the solution to all problems from one perspective, because Vedanta solves the problem of samsara. What could be a greater problem? Samsara, Swaminiji explains this very nicely. Some of you all might have heard this in a recent satsanga as well. That samsara is defined as some sorrow or another. Some sorrow or another is samsara, because there's always some sorrow in our life. If it could be job related, it could be child related, it could be parent related, spouse related, money related, whatever it is. There is something that you are dealing with at every point in life, every point in time. And our entire life is basically marked by these events which are sullied by a sense of sorrow. And the sense of sorrow doesn't really go away until you do something about it. But in a broad sense, Vedanta being the antidote to samsara will solve all of these problems, but not that easily. Because Vedanta will take years, perhaps longer, for it to really seep into our antakarana, into our buddhi, before it makes a place over there, and before which the entire paradigm has shifted. The way I look at the world undergoes a radical shift, and there is no way that I can revert back to looking at the world in a very pedestrian sense. The Advaitic perspective is a game changer. It changes the way you look at life, it changes the way you look at yourself, it changes the way you view reality. The very basis of reality itself undergoes a complete transformation and shift in your perspective, in your, in a cognitive sense. And so, from one sense, you can see that Vedanta solves all the problems. So why shouldn't one use spiritual escapism? Because you can escape to Vedanta; it will give you what you want, but it takes a long time. It's a very arduous journey. It's not something that will instantly solve a problem. And so that's why, what we mentioned, and to just sort of wrap that topic up, if you have a problem in your relationship, work on the relationship. If you have a problem with your employer, speak to your employer. If you have a skill gap, work on acquiring those skills. Whatever it may be, work on the immediate practical solution to solve those problems in parallel with Vedanta. Because once you gain those small successes, this is a very interesting thing in psychology, that a series of failures will disable you from gaining the next victory. Every failure that you accumulate in your baggage of failures, and all of us have failed in life in different avenues. I don't think there's anybody here who can say that every endeavor of theirs has been successful. No, we've all met with failures. And every time you are met with a certain failure, it becomes harder to crawl out of that hole. And you met with another failure, it's like, the ground just keeps caving under you to the point where you can't climb up anymore. And so, one solution, and the reason I say this is because some people have reached out to me privately also after the last call, and even generally speaking, sometimes people may text me or whatnot. And my suggestion is usually to tackle problems head on, and don't hide behind Vedanta to solve those problems. There are certain problems that you have to meet, practically speaking. So now, having said that, let us come back to Vedanta, because that's what we are mainly here for. I will share my screen, and Sumanji and Shrikantji, if you may, in this order, if you may just read us. And Sumanji, I know you were not there last time, but so I can just walk you through like how Shrikantji conducted it, which is that we will read a couple of passages. It could be a few paragraphs, and I will take a pause, maybe a 10-second pause, for people to gather their thoughts. If there are any questions, then I will attempt to answer those questions. And if there are no questions, then we can move on to the next paragraph. And maybe we can alternate between the two of you. Okay. So every section we can alternate.
Sure.
One quick statement I just want to make, because let's reserve comments as for questions as opposed to long statements, because I think last time we went into discussion mode, and for the sake of keeping pace and making sure that we make some steady progress with the text, let's focus more on the Q&A part. Okay, so if you have questions, please raise your hand. You are welcome to send a comment, or you're welcome to speak up. That's fine. Anything works, but let's only stick to questions and not long comments and discussions. Okay, I'll share my screen. Just a moment. Let me know if it is visible or if it's not.
It is visible to me.
Wonderful. So let me see where we were. Just a second. Give me a moment. Sumanji, if you may start with dharma as a human end.
Sure. Dharma as a human end. There is a third Purushartha, Dharma, that is neither Artha nor Kama. Dharma is a word with many meanings, as we shall see. Here it refers to the pleasure born of harmony, the pleasure derived from friendship, share, sharing, helping another person, and so on. For example, when you're able to relieve someone's suffering, you experience a joy that is not karma. This form of pleasure is different from both artha and kama, in that you do not usually seek out a person in pain in order to pick up some pleasure. It is not the same as going to Hawaii or to a concert. You happen to come across someone in pain, you're able to alleviate the person's discomfort, and you feel happy. The doctor who doesn't work purely for financial gain enjoys this kind of pleasure. Charity works in the same way. Those who are able to discover joy in such work do so. I would say because there is inner growth and understanding, a certain sensitivity on their part. Okay. This sensitivity is also required to understand love. For to love another person thoroughly is to understand the other person, for which one should be educated, cultured. If a person has not learned through experiences, if a person is not cultured, what kind of joy can he or she get out of life? For such people, there can be only sensory pleasures, eating, for example. But many simple joys are lacking in their lives. Thus, the gain in one's life is commensurate with what one knows.
Any thoughts here or questions? Oops, sorry. So I have a couple of thoughts that I can offer over here. So this is just building on from what we looked at last time. If you recall the example of the boy who enjoys balloons, and then you grow up, and then now you have certain other pursuits. You're looking out for a stable relationship. You're looking out for a car, a nice job, settling down, getting a home for oneself. All of these things, right? So to set oneself up, okay, you've met a few milestones in life, but these milestones give you some satisfaction, no doubt about it, because you feel that okay, I have done something with my life, I have done something in life, I have accomplished something, I'm looked up to, people recognize me as a certain contributing member of society. This is very important. A person, Pujya Swamiji says, he talks about a consumer and a contributor. I'm sure some of you all have heard Pujya Swamiji speak about this, especially in the context of aim for seva. See, maturity is truly marked by one's ability to contribute to the world. When you go to a corporation, there's this very famous. You have all kinds of corporate jargon and buzzwords. There's a term called KPI, right? Key performance indexes and key performance indicators. What is the KPI of maturity? It's truly one's ability to look at life for what it is. When I see something for what it is, I'm successful. And to the extent I don't look at things as they are, I'm unsuccessful. That's all. It's very straightforward. What do I mean by that? Our entire life is a mixture of two things: an objective reality and a subjective reality. There is a world out there. There's a phone in my hand. There's a computer in front of me. There are people that I'm speaking to right now. These are objective facts. Oh, this person is a terrible, nasty person because they said so and so to me. That is objectivity mixed with subjectivity. The personhood that I've referred to, I'm just going to take an example. I'm just throwing this out there just for fun. That Sumanji, you're a terrible human being. Because the other day I was trying to walk out of the door and then you didn't hold the door open for me. How rude. You're a nasty person. You're probably a very mean mother and you're not a good friend. And there are many other, presumptions I can make about you just because of that one incident that I did not like. And so our worldview is marred by a lot of subjectivity, because we superimpose our likes and dislikes onto people, onto situations, onto events, and onto ourselves also. My whole perception of myself is based on what I think people are going to perceive me as. Am I likable? Am I successful? Am I considered attractive? Am I considered socially, am I climbing the social ladder? Am I considered, a source of information that people can go to? Am I the one that people people derive a certain need out of? Because one wants to feel needed, one wants to feel validated, and so even my perception of myself is somewhere determined by my own likes and dislikes. To the extent that I'm able to be objective about myself, or to the extent I'm able to be objective about you or the rest of the world, that is truly the mark of success, to see something for what it is. And so Pujya Swamiji was asked a question once that, what is the purpose of life? He said it is to live. And then the next question obviously is, okay, what does it mean to live? And this is so important. He said to live is to be alive to facts. To be alive to facts is what constitutes living. Everything else is just dragging on. Our whole life, from the time you're born to the time one dies, sometimes we have to drag ourselves day by day to day to day. We have to sometimes drag through that day. One doesn't feel good. Okay, I'm just waiting. This. I dislike small talk, especially if you're in an elevator and people make silly expressions like TGIF, right? Thank God it's Friday. It's like, why do you crave for a weekend? It's because somehow your week has been so terrible that you couldn't stand yourself throughout the week. And now you just want to relax on the weekend because your week was so difficult to deal with. And that is the predicament of the jiva, that we are waiting for that one fine day, whether it's a weekend or whether it's your accumulated PTO that you will use to spend, taking out a week in Hawaii, or whatever it may be. You're at the beach and you're having fun and you think, this is the time when I can truly enjoy myself. When Vedanta says that you are complete wherever you are, whatever situation you encounter, you are who you are. Nothing can change that. But that, not recognizing this is a problem. Okay, so we spoke about the person who gets settled in life, and certain of these things are taken care of. But the next thing is that the person wants to become a contributor. Why? Because our whole life we've consumed. As a child, you consumed milk from the mother. As a child, you consumed food from your parents, love from your grandparents, love from your family members, love from your friends. Everybody is loving you, everybody is doting you. If you have a child in your family, do not forget to give them love, because it's very important. If you don't love them, they're going to grow up to be so insecure and distrustful. They will have trust issues. I know some people who have serious trust issues. And that's because they haven't been given a lot of affection as children. So anyway, children consume love. They consume. They consume food. They consume their environment. They consume material. They consume everything from people. And some people, unfortunately, never grow up because they keep consuming. They just consume from others, but they don't give back to the world. Today, this Swami Akhandananda ji, who's a great Mahatma, he says that we consume so much from the earth. We consume air, we consume water, we consume mineral resources. We consume so many things that we take for granted. But what are we giving back? How are we making the world a better place? And that creates a problem. When we remain consumers, but we don't contribute to the well-being of society and the well-being of those who are around us and the well-being of the planet as a whole, then there is something that always feels amiss, that somehow my life is not good enough. I may have all the pleasures in the world, all the wealth in the world, the best job, whatever it is, all my material and sensual needs are met. And yet I feel that somewhere deep down, I consider myself a big loser because I've not been able to give back. And so this desire to give back takes the forefront when one has successfully consumed and successfully gained a certain competency in life, where they have the skills. It could be skill sets, it could be some knowledge base, it could be some expertise in a subject matter, where you feel that, okay, now I'm ready to give back to the world, and I'm ready to make the world a better place than I found it. There's an old saying, always leave a place better than you found it. If somebody gives you something, make it better and give it back to somebody else. Pass it forward. Don't pass it back, pass it forward. Let the next generation have more than we had. That mentality is a very good mentality. So anyway, this is something that truly drives a person towards growth when they begin to contribute. And that's what Pujya Samji says is going from consumer to contributor. And so this contribution, the desire to contribute, is one of the critical elements of what it means to be a dharmic individual. Because now I am not only satiating, you see, this is also desire satiation. I'm not saying it's not satiating a desire, you're satisfying a desire. But at the end of the day, it's a desire that is beyond your small self. It is not only for one's own sensual or pleasure, sense pleasures, or one's own personal enjoyment. There's no sense of entitlement here. You feel that, okay, I am so grateful, I am so full with myself, not of myself, because you can be full of yourself also, which is not a good thing. But I'm so full with myself, with who I am, that I just want to give out. There's one book by Nietzsche. It's called "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," and so he's a German. He was a German philosopher. So there's one passage, and I'm not recollecting it very well, but it's about this person who's like a prophet sort of character, whatever. We don't believe in all those things, but it's for the sake of the story. And what happens is he climbs up a mountain and he dwells in a cave for a period of time, and he's gaining a lot of wisdom over there. He's gained so much wisdom, and now he cannot contain it any longer. It just spills out of him. Just as water starts overflowing from a full vessel, this wisdom, he cannot contain it. And so he looks at the sun and he tells the sun that just as you are so full of light and warmth that you cannot help but share it with the rest of the world, now I'm ready to descend from these mountains and go back into the plains and share what I have with the rest of the world, because I am so full with myself. And so that is also a very dharmic thing. It's not the most mature way to look at life, because even the fact that I am doing something for somebody else is also a little bit of an ego satisfaction. It's an ego boost, but it's a good place to start. That's what I mean. Because ultimately Vedanta will even drive that out of you, that sense that I am doing something, I am a contributor. But from the standpoint of dharma, we have not come to Vedanta yet. We are still talking about dharma. We are talking about karma kanda. From the standpoint of karma kanda, it is good to look at oneself as a contributor. So then I start contributing to the world, and I feel better because of it. I feel that I am living a meaningful life, a full life, a complete life, a life that is marked with a certain a perspective that is beyond myself. It considers the larger picture. It considers a lot more people, and a lot more people are included in that purview. Okay, so now you start doing dharma as a contributor. It could be some form of charity, it could be some seva, it could be helping a friend, it could be listening to somebody, it could be whatever it may be. Whatever is your yatharth shakti jo bhi hai, whatever may be your capacity, your samarthya, your skill sets, contribute in that fashion. That makes you a decently dharmic human being. Now you are a contributor, but now you have to move to the next level. So then somebody will say, what can be beyond contribution? Many things. The next part would be that, okay, I am no longer living only for my small needs and the needs of my family. Now I have the whole world to look after. Let me make this world a better place, but I'm still not satisfied. So then what happens is you start looking at yourself as less of a contributor and an agent, and more of a conduit through which good things are being done. That is even more mature. Now we've transcended to the next level of maturity, where even that ahankara associated with the fact that main kuch kar raha hu, that I am doing something, has been circumvented, and you've landed in a more mature place, and that is, things happen as they happen. It is Ishvara who is the karma phala data. The one who gives the fruits of karmic actions is Ishvara. A simple fact. Today there is somebody on the road and they are begging for food, and you give them some food because you are able to, and that person can't feed themselves. So are you truly giving food to that person, or are you brought about in that particular situation through a larger framework of karmic connections that you did not even determine in the past? You did not even expect that you will land up here in this moment, in this place, at this time, with this person, and offering this kind of meal to that person so that they don't die of hunger. You just happened to be there out of happenstance. It was your good karma and that person's karma that this connection was made. But we are truly only conduits through which people get the results of their karma. We are just conduits. There's nothing more to it. Now then somebody may ask, okay, if you're conduits, then why should I get the punya and pap karma? You do, because it's going to the conduit. It's not going to you. The body, mind, sense is again a conduit only. It's a an instrument. So that is one more way to look at it. And then even beyond that, if you want to go to the most mature perspective of all, well, one of the more mature perspectives rather, because even beyond that, there's one more level. The next perspective would be, there is no such thing as action. Everything is a play of the gunas. You have sattva, rajas, and tamas. The whole universe is a dance of these three gunas. Have you all heard of basic colors? If anyone, if you've studied arts or science, you know what the basic colors are: red, green, and blue. And those three colors can be mixed together to form the entire spectrum. The entire spectrum of rainbow colors can be combined through these three colors. In fact, children, as a child, I remember that white is not a real color. Like, it blew my mind, because when you have that color wheel and you spin it really fast, it starts looking like white. And even if you look at your screen right now and you're seeing the white screen, but if you take a microscope and you zoom in with the microscope, you'll actually see 3 pixels: red, green, and blue. And when those hit your retina, it appears as white. There's no white color per se. So anyway, that's a different matter about how even our perspective is misled. But another perception. Okay, so coming back to this fact, the whole Jagat is a dance of sattva, rajas, and tamas, just as the whole spectrum of colors is a dance of red, green, and blue, 3 basic colors. Now, this guna, what is the first impeller of the gunas to be set into motion is Ishvara. Because ultimately, there is, a primal cause that you have to talk about. I am not the cause of my birth, my parents are. My parents are not the cause of their birth, their parents are. Their parents are not the cause of their birth. Upar, you can keep going. Ultimately, where will you have to land up? In Ishvara. Same way, where did you learn Vedanta from? Your teacher. Where did the teacher learn from? Their teacher. Where did they learn from? Their teacher. Teacher. Go up the lineage. Where does it come from? Ishvara. So every initial cause, whether it is an action, whether it is knowledge, whatever you talk about, you trace it back to Ishvara. That is the beauty of Vedanta. So now the way you look at the world, even in a more mature way, that the initial prompting of it all begins with Ishvara and it all ends up in Ishvara. There is only Ishvara. There is nothing other than Ishvara. That is the way it is. And then even the world of names and forms, you go to the next level of maturity, and even that, you say that it resolves. And so the person, okay, let's come back to reality. So now this whole thing about dharma that we spoke about, the dharma as a purushartha. Dharma as a purushartha underlies artha, and it underlies kama, and it underlies moksha. If dharma is not taken into consideration before pursuing the other pursuits, then one truly has not appreciated dharma. And one is only looking at dharma as one of the 4 pursuits, when it is actually the basic pursuit behind the other 3, from the standpoint of a karta. Okay, so I will take a pause over there. If there are any questions, we can take, and if not, we'll proceed to the next reading. And then Shikanji, you can read from there. Ha, Pritamji.
Yeah, Namaste Prashantji. So, you mentioned that everything in the world can be traced back to Ishvara, right? So, like every action or whatever happens. So, my question is, there are very terrible things also happening in the world. So, how should we understand in the terms of Vedanta that how it can be traced to? So, should it be traced to Ishvara or it's something else?
Yes, beautiful question. Everything can be traced to Ishvara still holds. And the reason is, one's capacity, there are 3 Shaktis that one has: Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. In fact, if some of you all, especially if you're from the south, you chant Lalita Sahasranam, right? So, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Pradayini. So, these 3 Shaktis, Pradayini means the one who endows you with, the one who gives you, the one who empowers you with these 3 Shaktis is Lalita Devi, is Ishwari, Bhagavan, Bhagavati. And so, these 3 Shaktis are also given by Ishvara. My ability to desire, my ability to know something as an object, and my ability to act, my Kriya Shakti. my Ichha Shakti, desire, and Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, my ability to know something. All of these things are ultimately endowed by Ishvara, and they are my natural state. I don't have to work hard or qualify myself, or get a resume qualification to have Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. These three things come to me by very virtue of my birth. It is inherent to the Jiva to have these three Shaktis. And therefore, my Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, chalo, let's focus on Ichha Shakti at this point. I can desire to do what is dharmic. I can desire to do what is adharmic also. Because desire is within the purview of Ishvara. And therefore, everything that a person performs, even the capacity to do something, is again endowed by Ishvara only. And therefore, whatever I do is given by Ishvara. And Pujya Swamiji says, not only is the giver Ishvara, the given is also Ishvara. This is very interesting. The first time I actually read this quote, when I didn't understand this very well long back, I thought there was a typo. Because Pujya Swamiji says, all that is given is by Ishvara, and the given is Ishvara. I thought what Pujya Swamiji may have said is the giver is Ishvara. But then it is actually the given is also Ishvara. Because whatever is given is what it is the material cause. Ultimately, what is given is in the realm of Maya only. It's in the realm of Mithya. And whatever is given has its basis in Satyam. And so what is Ishvara is Ishvara only. So whatever one has is also Ishvara. One's ability to choose the right thing is Ishvara. One's ability to choose the wrong thing is also Ishvara. The consequences of those actions are also Ishvara. And so you trace it all back to Ishvara. Now, how does that make sense? Suppose I do something dharmic, there's punya karma associated with it. Suppose I do something adharmic, there's papa karma associated with it. Ishvara is not the one who's bringing about, the terrorist or whatever it may be. The person is becoming a terrorist through a set of circumstances, a certain background that the person goes through, and certain choices that one makes in their life. That ability to choose is presented to us every step in our life. Isn't that amazing? Every step along the way, I can choose whether this is a path I wish to take. If I have to, if I'm in a fit of rage, I still have a choice whether I should pull the trigger or I should just shoot away at the wall, or should I shoot somebody in their head. Even that is a choice that is presented to me. And so now sometimes these choices may not come naturally, because again there's a background that is driving those choices. But ultimately the capacity to choose is given by Ishvara, and the consequences of those choices are also given by Ishvara as the karma phala data. And therefore it is all traced back to Ishvara. So that is the whole beautiful tapestry of the world, that there's good, the bad, and the ugly, and there is nothing but Ishvara. I think, yeah, so Maji, somebody is counting in the background. 17, 18. So Maji. Okay, I'm going to. So Maji, you were speaking. Okay.
Thank you, Prashantji. So there is one more question. So where we stopped the reading, the last sentence, I would like if you could elaborate further on that.
Could you repeat? I didn't follow the question.
When we were reading, right, the last sentence, I can't quite remember.
Achha,
So if you could elaborate on that.
1 second. Sorry, this every time I scroll, something happens. I'm sorry, let me just pull back that page. Okay, so we were here, right? But this one, but many simple joys are lacking in the life, just to gain oneself is commensurate is what one knows. Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very beautiful. So, I'm just sharing this because of my background. See, my daughter goes to these Bharatanatyam classes, okay, and she studies dance, and she has a very good teacher. And there was recently, she's just 5 years old, and so they have this small little concert where children will do the basic mudras and whatnot. And so, what happened is, I told my wife that, do I have to come? She's like, yeah, your daughter's performing. I said, okay, fine, I'll come to see her, I'll come to clap and all. But then I want to quickly go away when others are performing. I just want to like go do my own thing. And that's not to deride the art form because it's so beautiful. Otherwise, I would not have entered my daughter in it. But because I come from a Gujarati background, because I grew up in Mumbai, because I don't have that background of appreciating concepts, I don't understand the mudras, I don't get it very well. The cultural appreciation is not fully steeped in me, that I can't get so much out of it. But now suppose my background somehow enabled me to listen to Mozart, and I was listening to Beethoven and Bach and Brahms and some of these Western classical composers. And so I have a better sense of appreciation, not because it's a better art form, I'm saying, but because my appreciation and my cultural upbringing presented me with a greater degree of understanding of those art forms relative to, say, something like Bharatanatyam, which as an Indian I should actually know better about. But this is what it means, that today, let's say if you are an art aficionado and you understand artwork, you study the history of great artists, you looked at Leonardo da Vinci, and you looked at all of these great composers. I mean, not composers, but painters, Picasso and Salvador Dali and whatnot. And now you understand art history. Now you'll have a new lens and set of eyes to appreciate their art. So next time you see a painting, because you know what was driving the artist, what were the motivations, what were the intentions, what was it that they've been through, the pain and the suffering and the torture and everything, whatever it may be, that they present it as art. Now suddenly it has a new life for you. Right? And so that is what it means, that, when the more one knows about something, including, like, for that matter, today, let's say, you are an expert chef, and somebody cooks the most marvelous, beautiful, wonderful dish, like 5-star, 7-star dish, whatever it may be, the Michelin ratings are there, 3-star Michelin ratings. And you eat it and you're able to savor it, and you're able to get even more flavors out of it. But somebody like me, I probably wouldn't. I'll just be like, I'll just eat it and I'll be done with it. Because I don't have that food appreciation. I might have art appreciation. And so your ability to enjoy something is commensurate with your understanding of what that thing is. But that is not so for a sunset. Right? You can go out and you can step. That's why Puja Samji says here that for such people there can only be sensory pleasures, eating. But though even eating, there can be some extra pleasure. But the thing is, most people in the world, if you present some food to them, they'll know whether it tastes good or not. They'll know it. You don't need to be an expert chef, but you can have maybe somewhat of an enhanced appreciation. But then there are certain other higher artistic forms that require even a deeper amount of appreciation. That's what Puja Samji is explaining over here. Right? So the more you know, the more you're able to enjoy life. And that is why, like, for example, I give many movie anecdotes, because I've, from childhood, I've appreciated a lot of movies. I've done a lot of critical analysis of movies. I've written essays on movies. I've written reviews on movies. So I enjoy those things. And so today, if I watch something, like, I don't watch movies with my mom, by the way, because she has a very bad habit of like talking through the film. She'll keep asking me that what happened. Oh no, this guy's going to die. This is going to happen. I think she's done it. I think he's done it. And I'll be like, Mom, I can't appreciate movies with you because for me it's a very deep religious experience. Let me enjoy it for what it is. And that's why I watch movies with my wife, because she stays quiet. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That in life, if you cultivate a certain taste for something, whatever it may be, an art form, then you will get so much more out of it. And that is all coming under the purview of Kama. Dance appreciation, art appreciation, movie appreciation, martial arts appreciation, whatever it may be. It's all coming under Kama, but it presupposes a deep knowledge that will heighten that appreciation. That's what's intended over here. Okay. Sure. And I think Yash, Bhai, you also had some question earlier, but I don't know if you still have one.
Sorry, Prasanji. No, I didn't have a question. It was mistakenly I did that.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
It happened. Thank you.
That was also Ishwar. So, okay. So, Shikanji, if you can read from here.
Okay. It seems that a certain professor of medicine in his introductory class said, "What your mind does not know, your eyes do not see." What he meant was that without medical knowledge, the cause for a disease would continue to elude a person even though the symptoms are everywhere. The eyes may see the symptoms, but the mind does not know. In life also, the more I know, the brighter life is, because I cannot see more than what I know. This is not to imply that I should necessarily get more out of life, only that my life is to be lived properly, fully, which implies a lot of understanding. Living does not simply mean dragging yourself around from day to day, from bed to work, back home, and to bed again. The whole process repeats itself until the weekend comes. Then you drag yourself to some recreation in the hope of forgetting yourself, which is why recreation becomes so important. In fact, your whole life can be a recreation. Someone once asked a Swamiji, do you not take any holidays? You seem to be working every day. In fact, the Swami's life is one long holiday. Do you want me to go on?
Yes, I think we can do the next para since it's related.
Okay.
Then we can pause for questions.
If you enjoy what you do, life is very simple. If you do not enjoy what you do, then you have to do something to enjoy, which can be very costly. On the other hand, any pleasure that comes out of one's maturing process is a different type of joy. Not hurting someone or doing the right thing at the right time, for instance, gives you joy. If not immediately, later. Suppose you have postponed doing something like the laundry, vacuuming, or letter writing. The day you decide to do it and do it, you find that there is a joy in finally having done it. A joy that is neither pleasure nor security. It is just doing what is to be done. It is dharma, a very big topic that we will discuss later. For now, it is enough to know that as you grow in your understanding, your dharma also grows.
Wonderful. Any questions here? So I can offer a few thoughts. In the meanwhile, if anyone has questions, we can look at it. So, this Pujya Swamiji talks about dharma as being very simple. Because, I would say, let me put it differently. Somebody once said to Pujya Swamiji that, Swamiji, you are so simple. You make things so simple. And Pujya Swamiji said, I am neither simple nor am I complex. I am clear. When somebody uses a lot of jargon, typically, my suggestion to folks is run away from that person if they use a lot of jargon, because every jargon is a certain word that is used, which you have to again dig into that thing's meaning, and then a few other words will be unfolded, and you have to dig into their meaning, and you keep digging, and by the time you're done digging, you'll have dug a big hole in which you'll have fallen. And so, avoid people who use jargon. But then, does that mean that things have to be very simple? No, things are only as simple or complex as they need to be. Now, suppose somebody says that calculus has to be as simple as counting. That cannot happen. There's a certain level of complexity that is inherent to calculus. So it will be as complex as it is. But can it be presented clearly, or can it be made complicated? That is what's important. Simplicity and complexity are not parameters to determine clarity. But when you use complications, that is a problem. Complexity is not a problem, complications are a problem. And sometimes we tend to complicate life. Life is usually simpler than we want it to be. But we want to introduce a lot of drama in our lives at times, and sometimes we chase it also. And so that is what makes life very complicated. And so, here when Pujya Swamiji says that suppose you do what is to be done, then there will not be any problem in life. Isn't that true? If I do what needs to be done in a given moment, is there anybody over here who doesn't know what they need to do to live beyond a certain day? No. You wake up tomorrow morning and there are a certain set of responsibilities that are before you. You know what needs to be done. But has there been anyone in your family, yourself, whoever it may be, who has not procrastinated? And the answer is no. I procrastinate. I have a serious procrastination issue. I'm working on it. I'm recognizing it. And I think recognizing solves some of the problem. And the reason I bring up procrastination is usually We put things off because we don't enjoy doing those things. And that goes back to childhood. Very sad, no? But it goes back to childhood. And I was, my I'm the heavyweight champion of procrastination because of a certain a certain upbringing, which is that my parents sort of allowed me to do my own thing. They weren't very much into disciplining me. I was if I did my homework, that's okay. If I didn't do my homework, that's okay. If I went to school, that's okay. If I went and bunked school and played with my friends or went to watch the movies, that's okay. And so somewhere, I realized that created a problem in my mind psychologically, which is that I was looking for instant gratification. I wanted to do the things that I like to do, and I didn't really do things that I needed to do. And so what I liked took precedence over what I needed to do, and that's a problem. And so slowly it took me a while, and I'm still working on it, but it took me a lot of struggle to start doing things which need to be done. I had to work on, getting more planned, getting more organized, scheduling things, whatnot. Maybe I'm a little better now, but it's a problem that remains. And one of the reasons a person procrastinates is it's actually a psychological, it's a fear mechanism. Let's put it that way. There's something that you need to do and you fear putting yourself through the set of actions that you need to do to accomplish it. And that's why you just want to resist. It's a bit like it gives you a little bit of anxiety. Suppose somebody says, okay, you need to do a lot of paperwork. I get anxious with paperwork, which is a very terrible thing. But if you have to do like a lot of paperwork, you have to fill forms and all, you don't put it off. Do it. Knock it off. And so one thing that I'm trying to teach my daughter also is I'm getting her to look at the plate of food before her and eat the things that she doesn't want to eat first. And I always say save the best for last, because then you'll be able to enjoy it at peace. And so, typically do those things that you don't like to do it first, knock it off, and then you'll actually, without any sense of guilt, you'll be able to enjoy the things that you want to do. Otherwise, is there anybody here who has not felt guilty that, "Arey, I didn't get anything done today. I wasted my day," and then you'll not even enjoy the thing that you did, and nor will you have accomplished anything. Both ways you're in trouble. But if you do what is to be done and then you enjoy it, then there's a certain satisfaction. I've earned it. I've earned my little spoil in life. A little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of pleasure. I've earned it. I completed my work. It's all dusted. Now I think I can go for a nice walk. You feel good about it. So this is a very basic tip that one should learn as children. Unfortunately, I did not, but hopefully we can teach our children this. That do what needs to be done. Enjoy yourself later. So once Pujya Swamiji, he's the genius. I'll tell you, Pujya Swamiji could speak to any person in the world at their level. Because what Pujya Swamiji once said, it always stayed with me, and I think there will be moments when I'll forget it. I will not be able to incorporate it completely in my life, but I will never lose sight of that as something that I wish to embody in myself. Pujya Swamiji said that I don't look up or down when I talk to people. When he would have the same gaze when he speaks to the Prime Minister, Modi ji, or he'll speak to a person on the street. He will not look at one person as different from the other person. Because he said that when I speak to people, I'm addressing a basic conscious being. Everything else is a label. PM is a label. Beggar is a label. Educated is a label. Rich is a label. Poor is a label. Successful is a label. Failure is a label. But the thing that is not a label is who you are, your essence, which is that of a basic conscious being. And so that is what defines a jiva, as the basic conscious being. And that is how Pujya Swamiji spoke to people. So that's why he could reach out to anyone and connect to anyone. So what happened is Pujya Swamiji had gone to his school in Tanjavur. What is that place? Manjakudi. When he was a child, he studied in a certain school. And after he became a Swami, he was invited as a dignitary. Sometimes you have a school and they'll invite alumni, successful alumni from that school. So obviously Pujya Swamiji is considered successful by everyone. He is considered a great Mahatma. And so the people called him back. And he was greeted by these 5, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And they were all lined up. And I'll send you that video if you want. I have that video. And so then, Pujya Swamiji says, see, there is one simple advice I can give you all. When you're working, work. And when you're playing, play. Don't work when you play and don't play when you work. Beautiful. What better advice can you give to children? You're going to say Tattvamasi to 5-year-olds? No, that will not work. Aham Brahmasmi? It will not work. That, the Ishvara is the Karma Phala Data? That will not work. Emotional maturity? That will not work. Play when you are playing, work when you are working. Don't play when you work, don't work when you play. And even as adults, if we are able to imbibe this basic fact in life, our life will be conflict free. You will not have any conflict. You will do what needs to be done and you will do a damn good job of it. That's what's important. So, okay. So, this thing about doing what is to be done, it reminded of me of Pujya Swamiji. Preetam Bhai, you have a question?
Yes, Prasanji. So I think these are two sides of same coin, but still conflicting. So the one thing is, if you enjoy what you do, then life is very simple. Life is like you will enjoy it. It gives you satisfaction. And then you mentioned if you do what needs to be done, then also it is same thing. I think you are mentioning, but it's not same, right? I need to do earn so that I can carry I can bring up my family. Sorry, but I might not, because of all the circumstances around me. I might not be liking that work which I need, which I'm doing, but I have to do because I need to bring up my family. So that is, I'm doing what needs to be done, but actually I'm not in the position to do those things which I enjoy and earn a living. So how to, means how to go through these two conflicting things, I think.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, just to recap the question for folks, what if I don't like what I need to do, and what if I wish to do something else with that time, and how does one resolve the conflict? And this is a very beautiful question. It's a very pertinent question, I think, for all of us really. And just because I'm speaking about it does not mean that I've mastered this myself, but I have the sense of what Pujya Swamiji is saying and how to make sense of it. So I'll share my perspective on this. See, Pujya Swamiji explains somewhere, perhaps in this book itself, I don't know, but somewhere he explains that the person, the truly successful person, and there are again different measures of success given by Pujya Swamiji here, is the one who likes to do what needs to be done. See, right now we are living a duality in that sense, right? As you rightly pointed out, that there's a split over here. There is one Venn diagram, a circle of things that I like to do. There's another circle of things that I need to do, and there's a small, tiny little overlap between them. But for the most part, they are disjoint. But there's a small overlap. There are a few things that I like to do which I need to do. But for the most part, what I like and what I need are little separate. And so that is a problem. And now there are multiple ways to resolve this problem. Okay. First is, let's go with basic practical solutions. We'll come to karma yoga and such later. The practical solution is, don't get sucked into a profession or an educational discipline because everybody else around you is doing this. I shared this with my colleagues recently. Manthan, since you are also like you new to the US, you just started working a year ago. You must have seen this to be true also. The hot thing that is there in a certain field, whether it may be technology or whatever may be the next hot thing, Indians will be drawn towards it like moths towards source of light. Like moths, they will just gravitate towards it. So long back in the when I was probably in school, but in the 2000s, I think some of you all may have been in your profession at that point, but this whole telecommunications was a big deal. Sometime around the 2000s, telecommunication became a huge thing that every Indian will run towards. And then this whole TCS and Wipro and Infosys and all of those companies became a big deal. And then after that, what happened is IT, web development became the next big thing. So suddenly all Indians will rush into that. Every person, your neighbor se leke your person in the next village, everybody will become an engineer, IT engineer. So then it became IT, a big buzzword. Now you have all of these people who are trying to land their dream job. And what is their dream job? Offshore. I got an offshore job. I got an invitation to work as a contractor in some company somewhere in the US. I got a 6-month contract, and then everybody will celebrate that. And then the whole IT department will be flooded by 80% Indian people. And now suddenly, Manthan, to your predicament and mine as well, I guess. Now analytics, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, that's become the next buzzword. And so now all the Indian people will do their masters in this. And then they'll come to the US and everybody will do the same thing. And now I have to, see the same competition, because Indians saturate every field because it's the next big thing. And that's the buzzword that they will follow like a trend. It's a very bad mentality. I am guilty of it. A lot of people I know are guilty of it. Unfortunately, it is bad parenting. It is a bad set of values. It is a bad set of it's a poor identification of what one is truly gifted at. I am okay at data analytics. I'm not pathetic at it, but I'm not world class. If I had truly had to make a contribution, and a big contribution, I know for a fact that I would have been much better suited to do something in philosophy, perhaps, probably. And data, now I'm able to work with it because I use a philosophical approach even to work with data. So chilo, I've been able to make some progress over there, fortunately, because it's a lot of pattern recognition and analysis and all, which works for me. It's not too bad. But rather than working for a corporation, I would have loved to actually put data to use for, let's say if I was working um, for a cause that I value, such as conversion. I think today a lot of Hindus in Bharat are being converted by Christians. And so I would have loved to do an analysis of that, to figure out, spot the patterns in whom they are targeting, what income groups they're targeting, what villages they're targeting, what age groups, what demographics, what statistics, what education levels, all of these things, gather all of these data sets, start doing some pattern recognition and rescue, through like the redirected funds through Hindu organizations, a certain village before they're targeted by Christian missionaries. Something like that one could do. Or like a sentiment analysis. Like, today, look, let's say, what's a sentiment analysis? You look at this page over here. There are certain words which describe life, right? Life is simple, something to enjoy, whatever. So if you do a sentiment analysis of this, it may spit out, okay, this looks like a 75 or 80% happy paragraph. Happy sentiment, joyful sentiment. Now, suppose I scour the internet and I do some web, what is it called? You're just web scraping. And you look through large publications, news portals, whatnot, and you take the term Hindu and you figure out how are Hindus represented through media. And then you take the term Muslims, how are Muslims represented through media, and you do a sentiment analysis to see how positively Hindus are represented and how positively Muslims are represented. I've done a little bit of that. And Hindus are represented negatively on average compared to Muslims and Christians. Because there's a Hindu phobia in public and there's an Islamophilia, which is a love for Islam in public, especially because of the left. So now I would have been much better suited, rather than working for a large corporation, to have actually been hired as a data fellow for these causes if somebody paid me to be able to run my family. But we have a dearth of that also. Whereas in Christianity, you have something called the Joshua Project. And they hire data scientists and they hire data warehouse people and data architects and data analyzers and statisticians and whatnot to figure out how they as Christian missionaries can take all of the church funds and use that to convert people in Asia, not just India, but even parts of Philippines and Taiwan and Korea and China and whatever. They target everybody, in Africa also and South America. So they are basically targeting everybody outside of the US and Europe. So again, unfortunately, I have to say this, that as parents, as Hindus, we are irresponsible towards our community because we don't care so much about it. And so again, what is your Swadharma? That this point to Preetham's question, to recognize one's Swadharma, to recognize what are your strengths, to recognize certain gaps in society, do a need analysis. This is called a need analysis in business. That today, if you have a corporation that you're hired to work for, you perform a need analysis on your team. What are the gaps? There's something called SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Right. So do a SWOT analysis of your family, do a SWOT analysis of yourself, figure out where you can really work, where you can put yourself to good use, and choose a career and education path based on that. Then what will happen is the Venn diagram of likes and needs will start to overlap more and more and more. And at some point, you will have discovered what your element is. That what am I really good at? Where can I really excel? And where can I make a positive contribution to the world? Which brings you back to Dharma, that you become a better contributor. Why? Because now you're doing something that you're damn good at. And that is what needs to be done. And that's why I said that I can never ever excel in my corporate job because my heart is not fully into it. I can do it as a duty, but I will not, put my 150% into it just because I know that I don't completely support all of the things that they are doing. It's a dog eat dog world out there. So this is how you bring alignment between your likes and your needs. That you line them up by recognizing what the gaps are and figuring out how you can fill those gaps through your unique talent and your skill sets. It's a very practical way to look at life.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Sure. And so if anybody has children over here, please, put them through the modality of figuring out their own life as opposed to living our dreams through them vicariously. Sometimes because I feel unfulfilled as a parent, then I will want to see my child fulfill that. And unfortunately, most of the fulfillment here is usually in terms of money. I recently had a colleague. I asked her. I said that what would your daughter like to do when she goes to college, because she was in high school or something. I don't remember exactly. So she said that I don't know, but I told her to pick a career that will make a lot of money. So I was very disappointed with that response, first of all, because she was probably 10 years elder to me. She was in her mid 40s, and to have that level of maturity and that level of parenting was very hurtful to know that something like this exists. So I said that, okay, what if your child is a gifted violinist because she used to play the violin, and suppose the child wants to join an orchestra and give symphonies and just compose beautiful music. She said, no, I would probably discourage that because they don't pay very well. So then I tricked her a little bit. I said, I changed the topic. Then I came back to this topic indirectly. I said, by the way, what do you like listening to music? She said, yeah, I love this and this and that. I said, can you tell me if you like? She said, I like listening to this song and that song. So I said that in that song, there's a violinist who is featured who brings so much joy to you, but you will deprive your child of bringing joy to the rest of the world because somehow you feel that a career is more important and money is more important than actually bringing value to society. And so she didn't respond to me after that, thankfully, but this is what life is about, that we want to take the best of the world that the world has to offer to us, but we don't want to turn ourselves into contributors, and we disable. Not only do we not encourage, but we discourage our children from actually contributing to the world in their own unique way, as opposed to in the way that we want. And Swadharma cannot be established by imposing one's own rigid set of notions and values and I dare say even traditional practices upon a child. Allow the child to appreciate what they do, otherwise they will always rebel against it. And there are so many children who rebel against Sanatana Dharma because somehow their parents just tell them to do a certain thing in a certain way without actually unfolding the deeper implications and the meaning of their actions. So always explain things to your children and allow them, one parenting tip. I'm sorry, sometimes I get into this whole parenting mode, but it's important. Do not tell children what to do. Certain things you can, but for most things, list out consequences to your children for the variety of choices that they have before them. Suppose a child comes to you and says, oh, mom, dad, what should I do? Say, if you do X, you can expect Y. If you do P, you can expect Q. If you do A, you can expect B. Here are the pros and cons. How will you weigh the choices? Allow your children to weigh their own choices because that will give them a lot of maturity. And they will discover a template for what needs to be done and what is imminent and how to prioritize their need structure. Very important. And the reason I share these things is because I'm learning this for myself. I'm a child who is not fully grown up and I'm discovering some of these things for myself as well. And I want to pass these on to my children, my child. And so I sometimes will share some of these tips as well. Okay. I think we've crossed about an hour. I'm happy to stay around for another 10-15 minutes if anyone has questions. Feel free to reach out. And I just want to make one caveat that you may feel that we are progressing slowly as far as actual pages go. But once, someone, once Swamiji was asked, or rather told, oh, I've studied this Upanishad, then I've studied that Upanishad, then I've done this, whatever. And so the Swamiji responded back saying that you told me that, how many Upanishads you've been through. but how many Upanishads have been through you? That's more important. And so for me, I think it's better for us to have a qualitative perspective as opposed to a quantitative goal that we want to set every week, that okay, we'll do 2 pages or we'll do 5 pages. It doesn't matter. As long as we are making some qualitative progress, that's more important, because it will sink in deeper. And then I'm sure that as some of these fundamentals are established, the next few pages will be much faster. But I would say the first 10-15 pages will be much slower, because there's so much background that needs to be shared to create a stronger foundation upon which the rest of the work will be built. Okay, so just one caveat on that, and I'll open this up for questions. You can type your questions or you can speak aloud. Anything is fine. Okay. In Chennai, where can I buy the book? Excellent. So give me a second. I'm going to send the link to this book. Just give me one moment. That's a great question. Because I actually realized I forgot to send you all the link over here. Oh, and while I'm fetching the link for the books, can I ask just a quick question to everyone, really? Or you can type a response. Did you join here from the Telegram group, or where exactly did you join from? Because one of the challenges I'm facing is I think most people in the group aren't even reading the messages, because somehow notifications are turned off by default. So are you here from the WhatsApp group? Are you here from the mailing list? Are you here from Facebook? Where are you from? If just a few of you can respond, it will help me figure out where I need to post my invitation. So Telegram, YouTube, Telegram. Okay, so most of you are from there, and WhatsApp. I request the ones who are not on WhatsApp to please join Telegram. And I've just sent the message to all of you all as to where to purchase the books from. So the first link is the Indian link, where you can buy it if you live in India. And so in Chennai, the first link is applicable. If you live in US, you can buy the soft copy or you can buy the hard copy. Jyoti ji, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Prashant. See, two separate questions have always bogged me. One is how to keep the Dharma Purushartha as your goal of life. This is generic for not that it applies just to me, but to the world in general. How can one keep Dharma as a Purushartha when there is so much struggle going on in life, right? Pure survival or meeting the basic fundamental requirements of having been born and doing your what is necessary to continue to exist. That is one question. The second question, or rather comment on what you said about upbringing of children and letting them do what they want to do. I completely subscribe to the fact. Where my conundrum is that while we allow children to do that, or I mean, who are we to allow? While we let that happen, um, how is it that you instill certain discipline and especially what our shastras convey as the right way of doing, right? See, to a 5-year-old, I cannot explain, or an 8-year-old, I cannot explain why he should do the rituals or the Sandhya Vandane and things like that that is associated with the sacred thread ceremony, and thereafter his brahmacharya till such a time that he imbibes what our shastras are talking about. So, how is it that we can instill this without them, the children, really understanding the purport of such activities? They're not yet mature enough to understand the concepts of philosophy the way we learn it from our gurus, and even we have learned it only after a certain number of years, right? We understand it only after a certain time. Thank you. These are the two questions.
So these are wonderful questions, and I just want to share that I'll probably spend the next 10, 12 minutes discussing this. So officially we've ended the session. So whoever wants to drop off, you're welcome to, and I'll just close off with a Shanti mantra, and then I'm going to get into this question. Whoever wants to stay back and hear. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So addressing this question, Jyoti ji, there are multiple approaches here. And it's not that one is more effective than the other. They are all supposed to work in tandem. The first is set an example. Because, today you don't need to teach a child that this means hi and this also means bye. But there are two words that we use. We use hi and we use bye. And these are also rituals. Waving your hand when you're leaving, doing namaste is also a ritual, and waving your hand is also a ritual. But you didn't have to teach your child how to do this. They picked it up. How did they pick it up? They saw others doing it. And so one of the easiest ways to teach children is do yourself and set an example of the things you wish to teach. That non-verbal communication is the most important thing, I would say, more than verbal communication. So suppose you see people in your family doing Sandhya Vandanam, they are chanting. There's one girl in our Atlanta region. Her father was initiated into Upanayanam and the Sri Rudram also by the Shringeri Acharya. This was the 35th Jagat Guru of Shringeri, Sri Abhinav Vidyatit Mahaswamiji, great Mahatma. And so the father would chant the Rudram every single day. And then the daughter, in that tradition, in our tradition is different in Arsha Vidya Gurukula, but in that particular Shringeri lineage, women are not supposed to chant aloud the Vedic mantras. So what happened is once this daughter, when she hit her teenage years or something, she went to the guru, her guru from the Shringeri lineage, and she said that, I know the Rudram completely because every single day I hear my father chanting it. Though I have never chanted it myself, I know it completely. Am I allowed to chant it? So the guru said that, as per our lineage, there is one way that you can do this. Do Manasa, what is it called? Parayanam. Do the Parayanam of the Rudram mentally. Don't say it aloud. That way you will also get what you're looking for. The same punya will accrue to you. And you're not violating any of the traditional dictates. So the point I was making here is that even without wanting to consciously learn something, in a teenage year, suddenly the batti jal gayi, the lamp of sadhana was lighted up in her teenage years, though she never did any of it, just because she saw her father doing this consistently every single day, that she had this innate desire to do it herself. So it may seem right now that the things that we do may not have an immediate impact on our children, but the samskaras actually start imprinting. And that is very important. Live the life that you would want your children to live. Use the words that you would want your children to live. Speak in a language, conduct yourself in a manner that you would want your children to conduct themselves when they grow up. Be the mentor that you always wish you had when you were a child, but you did not get. And be that person for your children. So that is step one. That make sure that you set a fantastic example. Second is, do not speak to them in philosophical terms. Like for example, because I have a 5-year-old, what I'm going to tell her? She asked me, what is Ishvara? I can't talk about Nirguna, Nirakara, this, that, and all. It's meaningless. In fact, if you want to scare your child, that is the first thing you should do, because they'll say, this is such a boring thing. Expose them to colorful stories from the Puranas. Show them stories from the Shiva Purana, from the Vishnu Purana, from the Bhagavad Purana. Show them the Mahabharata, the Ramayana. Tell them small anecdotes from these itihasas. Like yesterday, my mother was telling, my daughter stories about Vali and Sugriva. Before that, we were telling her stories of like how Hanumanji jumped from coast to coast. And then how the Setu was built, and how the nice little squirrels and the monkeys collaborated together to build the Setu. These are very cute things, because what it does is, first of all, it's entertaining. Because children want to be entertained. Let's face it. We want to be entertained. Our children won't be entertained. They have a desire for entertainment. Second is, every single character in our itihasas is archetypal. You have an archetype. I think most of you all are familiar with what an archetype is, but I'll still spell it out. An archetype is a very deep seated persona or personality that all of us somewhere fall into. You have different archetypes. You have archetypes in India. You have archetypes in the West also. I am familiar with some of these personality metrics and such because I've done a little detailed study of psychoanalytics. So you have a teacher archetype. So you'll have a guru. You'll have a jester archetype. So you know what a jester is, right? So somebody who comes to court and will say things which are both witty but also wise. A jester is not a joker. A jester is actually supposed to be very witty. So who is the jester archetype in Sanatana Dharma? Narada Muni. See, very witty. He'll say things which are so sharp and so witty, and in some sense, he will establish new ways of doing things, and he'll topple kingdoms, and he'll be able to affect great change just through the use of a few words. People undermine Narada Muni. People say Narada Muni is this troublemaker. He's not a troublemaker. He's a great wise man and a jester personality. He is the one who makes you see your own reality. He shows you the mirror. That is Narada. Jesters show the king their own mirror, their own face in the mirror. They show them the reality. And jesters can get away with it because they say it with a smiling face, with as a joke. They will encapsulate a lot of wisdom as a joke. So anyway, there are multiple archetypes one can talk about. You have the mother archetype, the father archetype, the king archetype, the soldier, like 16, 20, 30 different archetypes, depending on how you want to break it down. I'll not get into that. But every single character in our itihasas and Puranas fit an archetypal mold. And these molds deeply resonate with something in our heartstring vibrates with that resonance that is in accordance to what these archetypes are. And so when you teach a child the story of Rama, when you teach the story of Bharata, about his dedication towards his king, towards his brother, about the sandals, that were kept on the throne, and you teach about the dedication of Lakshmana, you teach about the bhakti of Hanuman ji. All of these things are so archetypal that you don't have to tell a child that, okay, now this is what it means to be a bhakta. All you have to do is point at Hanuman ji. This is what a bhakta looks like. You don't have to spell out as an essay what it means to have bhakti. You just point at Hanuman. What it means to be an ideal son, an ideal husband, you just point at Rama. What it means to be an ideal wife, you just point at Sita. What it means to be an ideal brother, you just point at Lakshmana and Bharata. What does it mean to be an ideal oath keeper? Somebody who never, ever, ever, ever breaks an oath. Just point at Bhishma and point at Dasharath ji. Right? Because even though the oath, one may say, that was so silly. Well, he didn't have to fulfill Kaikeyi's promise. Why did he have to do that? But he died for it. But he would not break his oath. He would not lie. He will go through hell, but he will not break his word. And so you just point at Dashrath and say, this is what it means to tell the truth. Bhishma took an oath. Bhishma means the terrible one, right? The one who's taking, correct me if I'm getting my Sanskrit wrong, but the one who takes like Bhishma was named after he took that oath. He was called Bhishma because it was such a terrible oath, such a terrifying oath that I will not be. He was the most qualified of kings. He was the rightful heir and the rightful ruler. Nobody could have ruled as well as Bhishma, the Kuru kingdom. But he took that oath. He took the oath of brahmachari. He took the oath of being an obedient servant to the kingdom, not the leader of the kingdom. And he never broke that oath. Even if he may have been wrong about participating in the war and siding with the Kauravas, that's a different matter. That we can squabble over. But when you look at archetypes and when you look at the Itihasas and the Puranas, that will teach children more than any book in the world, more than anything that you can tell them. Just show them these stories. And don't say it once and then repeat it after a few years. Every single day, keep exposing them to small stories. Create a schedule for yourself. Maybe like bedtime stories. Okay, today we'll talk about Sugriv and Vali. Tomorrow we'll talk about, how Rama strung Shiva's bow, during the Swayamvar. And then the next day we'll talk about how he was taken to the forest, by Valmiki ji, and not Valmiki ji, sorry, Vishwamitra, to defeat the Rakshasas. All of these things you can talk about. And every day can be a new story, and the next day they'll be like, Mom, tell us more. We want to hear. Continue. And you can create a narrative for your children. Then automatically they'll see Ram Bhagwan wearing the Janoi and Ram Bhagwan performing the Sandhya Vandanam and the Tarpanam and all of these things. You see, your hero does it, you should also do it. The West has a dearth of superheroes, by the way, because they are moving away from religion. And that is why these Marvel movies and DC comic films sell so well. And they make so much box office money because they have substituted actual archetypal heroes with these new mythologies, right? Of Avengers and Iron Man and Superman and Spider-Man and Batman and Wonder Woman and this and that. These are filling the gap that Americans and the Westerners typically are facing because they have nobody to look up to. But we never had that problem because today we have Arjuna and we have Sri Krishna and we have Rama and we have so many heroes that we can look up to. And so we never had to settle for these, comic books and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong with that also, because again, it's a good thing. In fact, if a person wants to understand archetypes, I've given a 2-hour lecture on the Lion King. It's out there on YouTube. If you just search my name and you type Lion King, I've given a 2-hour talk on the archetypes of Lion King. And you can teach your children something like that also. Anyway, first point was lead by example. Second, expose them to archetypal figures through Itihasas and Puranas. Third, teach them actions and consequences. Not do's and don'ts, but actions and consequences. We have to move away from do's and don'ts. Because what will happen is, I don't know how old your children are, but once I think you said 8, right? But once they hit teenagers, your do's and don'ts are going to be thrown back at you. Okay, and in a very nasty manner. Whatever do's and don'ts you've given so far, it will all come in one package during the teenagers, and they'll like chuck it your way like this. They'll throw it at you like this. You never want that to happen. So rather, teach them to think as through actions and consequences. If you do this, this will happen. If you don't study, you will fail, and then you will not graduate. And next year, all of your friends will be in 5th grade, and you will be in 4th grade, and then these things will happen. So I leave it up to you. If you want to fail, don't study, no problem. So that way, if you they'll be like, no, Mom, I don't want to fail. I want to catch up. I want to stay. So then that way you've given some duty orientation. And the next thing is, don't induce too much fear in children. Certain fears are legitimate, like, okay, if you don't brush after eating chocolate at night, especially at night, then you will get cavities. Is a proper, appropriate thing. But then don't say things which are not true. Don't say things which are not true, because when they discover the truth as they grow older, they will not accept the things that you say as a trustworthy person. They will lose trust in you when they've discovered that, oh, my parents were lying to me, just scaring me into doing certain things. Don't do that. So my mother does that to my child. She'll say certain things which are not true, and she'll try to induce certain fears and comparisons, which brings me to the next thing. Never compare. Do not ever compare sibling against sibling, child against friend, because that comparison is going to create a lot of insecurity in them. They may succeed temporarily because you compare that, oh, see, that person's getting ahead, but then you are actually preparing them for the rat race, and by implication you are turning them into rats. We do not want our children to participate in rat races from childhood. There's one more thing I don't like about Indian parents, by the way. I rebel against Indian parents in the US. Have you seen the absurdity of spelling bees? It is the most worthless thing that a child can ever participate in. I am sufficiently well versed in the English language, and 95% of the time I don't know what these words are. They never, figure in your vocabulary. You will never read about it in some profound novel. Nothing. Useless words. Children will have to memorize or figure out what the morphology of those words are and this and that. And somehow they see the winning of a spelling bee as an achievement, when they should actually be memorizing the Bhagavad Gita. If you have to really memorize something and you have to excel, enter a Gita chanting competition. But then, what do we do as parents? We want our children to be competitive, to be recognized, to be patted on the back by the Westerners. And so then we enter them in spelling bees and other stupid things, which is very bad. The next thing that you should never do is don't inundate them with tuitions. Indian parents have one more mentality, which is that the more I make my child study, the more I send him to classes, this tuition, that tuition, taekwondo class, this class, swimming class, dance class, crafts and arts and this and that and whatnot. What are you doing? And the reason I say these things is because my wife, she did her undergrad and masters in childhood education. And so she's participated in a lot of seminars, and she studied a lot of literature. And so there's a very important concept of free play that Indian parents have forgotten. And Pujya Samaji also talks about it, that, do not have too much structured time for children. Allow children to have certain free play time. Because when you have free play, that is the only time in your life as a child that you have the ability, or you have the luxury to exercise your creative freedom and your imagination. And guess what? To discover what your strengths are. Like right now I see, like, for example, my daughter, she's good at certain things, she's not very good at other things. One thing that she is not good at is she draws terribly. But when she paints, she is able to paint in a very distinct, unique manner, where she'll actually mix different colors and make it look more like a kaleidoscope with different patterns and whatnot. And so we encourage that okay, it's different, it's not what other people are doing, but it's okay to be different. You don't have to be the same. And when you allow a child to exercise their difference, you are allowing them to exercise their gifts and discover their gifts, first of all. And once those gifts are discovered, they will not have a difficult time discovering what they want to study in college, what kind of job they want. And then their life will be sorted. And then, coming to Preetham's question, they will have a better sense of likes and wants. The likes and needs, likes and duties will start to coincide. So that I think is very critical. So what I think we've covered like 4 or 5 things. I'll say a couple others as well. Please teach your children certain mantras as they grow up. Pujya Swami Dayananda ji said this. He said this once somewhere, I don't know where it was, but he mentioned that when he was young, he was initiated into the Gayatri Mantra from a very young age. He grew up in a traditional Brahmin family and whatnot. And he said that when you are a child, and Pujya Swamiji lost his father at 8. I can share this with you all, right? That he had a very tough upbringing. He had to go through a lot of hardships. He was the eldest of 3 or 4 brothers, and he had to raise them all on his own. He didn't have his own father. His mother was not available because she was, in those days, unfortunately, or whatever may be the social circumstances, the mother has, when you get widowed, you have to like shave off your hair, and you have to only dress in a certain way, and you were not supposed to leave the house and whatnot. And so his mother had to go through certain hardships of her own, and she wasn't able to give her best to the children because she was so I guess just cornered by the social atmosphere in those days. And so Pujya Swamiji had to go through so much as a child, and yet when we see him before us, we see him as the most sorted human being that you can find. The most sorted, the most gifted, the most giving, the most mature, the most wise of all. And how did that happen? First of all, Ishvara. And, he's no different from an Avatara, if you ask me. I think, he's a great Mahatma, but not just an ordinary Mahatma. He's a great Avatara of sorts. But at the same time, Pujya Swamiji mentioned that having a mantra is one of the best defenses that you can have as a child, because your mantra is something that is there with you at all times. I remember this personally, by the way. I don't know why this happened, but maybe it's because I'm an only child and I was very pampered. But I had this weird phobia when I was a child, when my parents were out. In those days, I think we got cell phones and such only when I was about 12 or 14 years old. And so when my parents were out, I had no way to contact them. And every time, for some reason, I would feel something bad has happened to them. So it's like 9:30, 10 at night, and maybe they're still with their friends. And then this was maybe when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I think that maybe they have died, or maybe something terrible, their car has crashed, or whatever. I'll come up with the worst possibilities. And in those times, I used to keep chanting a mantra, because I was not initiated or anything, but somehow I've heard every night before I go to sleep, my mother used to make me say a mantra, the Panchakshari mantra. And so I used to keep repeating that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And that would prevent me from thinking stupid things. And it would also build a lot of punya and a lot of objectivity. And so even today, like, till date, because who doesn't have problems? But when I have certain problems, or when there is a certain moment that I feel anxious, or maybe, like a few years back, my father was hospitalized. I was very anxious about that as well. A lot of things happened in my life. I would just start chanting the mantra spontaneously. And so the mantra has become a very good defense mechanism, because the fact of the matter is, today as a parent, we are we have a limited lifespan. Something could happen to us, something could happen to anybody. And if a child doesn't have a shoulder to lean upon, the only shoulder that will remain consistently throughout the life, even if every other relationship falls apart, is your relationship with Ishvara. And so if you can build a relationship with Ishvara for your child, there is nothing greater than that. There is no greater gift a parent can give the child. Forget money, forget, property and inheritance. That is all tachara relative to giving a child an appreciation of Ishvara. Allow them to bond with Ishvara, allow them to lean upon Ishvara, allow them to cry to Ishvara when they are in need. And when a child cries to Ishvara, the child has recognized Ishvara as an entity that is real. And that entity will always be there to support your child throughout their life, even when they're old. And so a bond, a relationship, a connection with Ishvara is the most important thing that one can think about. And there are probably other things also, but I think this much is sufficient for now. At least anything else I say will be a ramble.
Thank you very much, Prashant.
Sure. And any last question before we close? Okay, so let us close, and we will commence. I mean, sorry, we will catch up again next week. Swati, you have a question.
Hi, Hari Om Prashant Bhaiya. I just want to say that what you just said on children, especially building a relationship with Ishvara, that was just so beautiful. And that is my biggest takeaway from this session, because I have an only child too. And I always used to wonder, like I take him for classes on Sundays, Chinmaya. He's learning about our, faith and everything. But I always used to wonder, how do I, you know, in fact, that's good for even us. But, with the only child, you always wonder, he doesn't have a sibling, he doesn't have, all of that stuff. But I loved what you said about initiating your child and inspiring them to create a relation with God. And this was amazing. And so when he sleeps by himself in his room, there is a small Hanumanji that I got for him from India. It's a small stuffed toy of Hanumanji, and that's how he was able to sleep in his room. And I did it unknowingly. I was like, you know what, Mama is going to be in her room, but Hanumanji is going to be there with you all night. And if you get up, take his name, and he'll help you sleep. But that was all. And now I'm thinking that it is such a beautiful idea to give him a mantra. So every time now that he's growing up, he can reach out for that. So thank you for this. This was amazing.
No, wonderful to hear that. Wonderful. And if you can, giving a mantra is great. If you can have a guru to give a mantra, even better. And so that is, I'm glad you brought this up, because the last point I would really make here is have a guru. Make your child fond of a guru figure in your life, preferably your guru, whoever your guru is. So for example, like my daughter, we take her to see Swamini Swatma Vidinda Ji, and she loves Swamini Ji. And so whenever Swamini Ji sees Ambika, she just have her arms stretched out, and Ambika will come running towards Swamiji, and Swamiji will pick her up. And then when she'll make her sit on her lap and all of these things. What happens is, when you start admiring your guru figure, as you grow up, you will never have a distaste for authority.
Yes, that's true.
Authority figures very important for a child.
That's true. And a positive relationship with those authority figures from a
Very
young
important.
age, rather than seeing them as authoritarian or do's and don'ts, but really
Yes.
somebody who adds to their life, actually.
Yes.
But I have a quick small question here. We are all in, I don't know about other people, but I know you are in the US, I'm in the US, and I grew up having a guru for myself, but they are in India. How do you do that for your kids here?
Excellent. So before I answer that question, there's one very important thing I forgot. A lot of you are parents. Please enroll your children into Purna Vidya courses. Purna, so there's of course there's Bal Vihar also, which is great. If you can, and if you have an option between the two, try checking out Purna Vidya. It is a course that is developed by Pujya Swamiji and some of his shishyas. Join those Purna Vidya courses. Look it up. I don't have information right now in terms of like what website you can register and whatnot, but it is somewhat similar to our Bhagavad Gita home study we are doing right now, which is that a family or family will host children of other families, and then they will have an entire series of educational material on Sanatana Dharma from the age of 6 to 17. So for 12 years, a whole syllabus of Purna Vidya has been put together by our Asha Vidya Acharyas. And a lot of children who graduate from these courses do decently well, and they have a very good exposure to the tradition as well. So Purna Vidya is one more tip I would give. I think, Swatiji, what was your last question? I totally forgot.
My question was, Prashant Bhaiya, that Guru figure, how do we introduce our children to Guru figure in the US? I don't have anybody here, Honestly, my gurus are in India.
Yes. This is a very tough thing, especially in the US, but it's doable. The way we do it personally is, see, like for adults such as us, for ourselves rather, a phone call is sufficient with a guru. But that doesn't work for children. Children need personal contact, in-person contact. And so we take the effort, like whenever we have vacation days that we want to use, we have to take the effort to go and visit the Gurukulam. The Guru is not going to come visit you. You have to go visit the Guru. And so right now, Sumanji also, like we were there at the Gurukulam. Before that, I had come with my daughter actually the time before this one, about 3 months, 4 months back. And again, there also, she will just sit on Swaminiji's lap. And Swamiji will talk to us, but she'll just sit there very shyly, very cutely, and she'll just be like, hey, I'm listening. And she knows that this is a person that you respect. This ochre kapda that they wear, the saffron clothes. My daughter has learned to respect the vastram also. Because now she knows that a person who wears those clothes is a respectable person. Yeah. And so you see, like indirectly, just through these, in-person, rendezvous that you can have an interaction with your children, there is so much that is underlying that interaction. That most of it is non-verbal, but it grows up. When the child grows up, it will all bear fruit. Because next time they see, like a lot of Indians, especially if you go to like these Mumbai and some metropolitan areas, people are rebelling against tradition because they've not had a guru figure. But today, a child who's grown up with a guru will never rebel against a guru ever.
Yeah,
they know that this person is a kindly person. So yes.
So when you say Guru, so when you say Gurukulam, Prashant, is it in here, US, or in India?
In US, there's one that I recommend above all else, and that's Asha Vidya Gurukulam. And I'm not just being like biased about it because I'm a student of the Gurukulam, but qualitatively speaking, it is a notch above everything else in the US. It is several notches above anything that you'll find in the US. So if you want the best quality of teachers and teachings, then Asha Vidya Gurukulam is the place to go. It's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so, that's the thing. It's in Pennsylvania, and
you have to take a flight.
I'm in California.
You can take a flight 1 week a year.
Do you know anything in California if they have any centers? I tried looking for it.
Asha Vidya Center is in Milpitas. It's close to San Jose. But again, they don't have a resident teacher over there. Sometimes you have teachers who teach there in that center. They are visiting teachers. And you can also, Swamini Swatma ji, for instance, comes to Milpitas once in a while to take a series of talks. So, but I will send you those details if you reach out to me. But you can look it up. It's called Asha Vidya Center. The main Gurukulam is Asha Vidya Gurukulam in Pennsylvania, where you can stay there and you can there's Dakshinamurti Bhagwan Mandir and everything.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Menanji, one more question.
Yes, I don't know to call you Prashant Ji or Prashant Guru because you're much younger to me.
Ji or Bhai or Prashant.
Anyone who teaches, Veda, in any teacher for that matter. And today for me, you're considered as a teacher because you're teaching something to us. But any which ways, needing a guru at this, whatever I have learned is of Bhagavad Gita or whatever scriptures is based on hearing it from reading a lot of comics when in my younger days and listening to my grandparents talk about it. But at this age, I'm going to be 60. I think now I'm getting drawn towards the religion, and I don't know whether it's religion or to the scriptures, need to understand more about what life is and what is how does life I'm actually at a loss of words right now, but yeah, let me put it in short, saying that right now I'm looking at a teacher.
You're looking for a teacher?
Yeah. So how does one find in India someone whom you can go to understand?
No, wonderful. Sorry, what location are you at?
I'm from Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Okay. So, see, the good news is that since you're in Bharat, there is no shortage of great teachers in every city. That is a good thing. In US, it's hard. It's very hard to find in the US. In Bharat, every city will have a couple that you can easily tune into for listening to the satsangs, for and attending in person and such. In Hyderabad, there's one, not Hyderabad, Secunderabad. I don't know how near. I think they are nearby only.
Yeah, I'm from Secunderabad.
So there's one Swami Tattvavedanta ji who teaches in Secunderabad as well. You can look him up. He teaches both in English and Telugu.
Okay, of course I'm Kerala. I'm a Malayali.
So if you he'll give talks in English also. So or if you understand Telugu, that also works. But he's a teacher from Ashwadya Gurukulam. Now, I with all due respect, I would also say that if you want to get the most out of Swami Tattvavedanta ji, it is generally recommended to listen to Swami Tattvavedanta ji in conjunction with some other teacher, because sometimes you can be a great Mahatma, but sometimes the way you present teachings, there may be a little bit of a scope for confusion. So that I've observed in a few students, unfortunately. And so, if you alongside Tattvavedanta ji, if you also listen to Pujya Swamiji, primarily pravachans and such, you read to Pujya Swamiji's books, then the scope for getting confused or misled in certain key areas will not be there. But if you exclusively listen to Tattvavedanta ji, there may be certain things which differ, but nonetheless, not having a guru versus having a great Mahatma such as him as a guru, of course you will try to reach out to him. So I would try to listen to Swami Tattvavedanta ji in person.
And is there a way I can reach out to him? Any contact or something?
If you send me a message, because I have a terrible memory about these things, but if you send me a message, I will be sure to follow up with you and get you the right contacts who can introduce you to Swamiji.
That would be very, very I would be really thankful about that. And
absolutely.
Other thing, Prashantji also wanted to share good news. Last time I had told about losing some money, if you recall, to an online scam by Lord Krishna's blessings. Out of the 47 lakhs that I lost, the authorities have recovered 42 lakhs.
Congratulations on that. And see, last time we spoke about Bhagwan. Bhagwan takes care of things.
Correct. So I found Lord Krishna in my investigating office, every person who has tried to help me during this time. And I would like to thank all of you for being part of my painful moments and joyful moments.
Wonderful. Ishvara is always there, and Ishvara always has your back. So I'm very happy to hear that. Yes.
So I just wanted to share that also. So thanks all of you, and I will reach out to you personally, Prashantji. Right? Thank you.
Please.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, wonderful. Hare Krishna. So if there are no other questions, or if there are questions, let's take them next time, and we will close and see you all next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Wonderful.
Prashant Bhaiya, thank you.